Today, we're going to be speaking with Tim Miller, who's a writer and political consultant, the author of Why We Did It, a travelogue from the Republican Road to Hell. And his show is also available on Snapchat and is called Not My Party. Tim, great having you on. I really appreciate it.
David, I've seen you on the YouTube's been feeding you to me, so I
Oh,
think
that's good. That's
this was
shocking.
meant to be. This was meant to be, I
Usually,
think.
right wing stuff is fed to left wingers, but I like to see the opposite happening a little bit. So, I mean, okay, just to kind of like orient our audience,
Sure.
you are not on the Trump train, for lack of a better term, but I
No.
think it would be interesting to hear about when did you start to think that the Republican Party was going in a direction that you didn't like, that didn't make sense to your values?
Yeah. Well, this is you're hitting at the regrets part of the book. The why we did it. We is an important word there because I'm included in we, even though I bailed on Trump the minute he went down that escalator, bailed on the idea that I would support him. But as I look back on it, one of my first jobs in politics is I was the Iowa spokesperson for John McCain during the 2008 primary. And so I was obviously the leadoff kickoff, the caucus state. So it was a very important kind of role. I was excited about the role. And the types of people that were showing up to the John McCain town halls that we would have, and the kind of questions that he was getting over and over about their concerns about the invasion at the southern border, and globalists and the NAFTA superhighway. This was a conspiracy theory back at the time that never came to pass. I don't know if you noticed, we never did get that NAFTA superhighway, but
Right.
these folks would come. And I started to get a sense that, oh man, like maybe the people that make up this party, have a set of values that are separate from mine. Then obviously McCain goes on to pick Sarah Palin. The Palin rallies were very much a proto example of these Trump rallies,
Yep.
right? Of people shouting about Barack Hussein Obama and being a Muslim. And so, I kind of rationalized that and justified it because I still like John McCain and still believed in his political program, which was quite different than Donald Trump's political program. And I was ambitious, and wanted to continue to be successful in my career. And so I think that using a few different rationalizations, I kind of blocked out the fact that in retrospect, I really saw this all coming in 2007.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is there's this viral moment where at some event, I don't remember where it was, this woman asks John McCain, not even really asks, just sort of says like, I think Obama's a Muslim. And McCain says, no, he's not. He's an American and he's just someone with whom I have political differences. So that was sort of the type of signal you're talking about here.
For sure, and it helped me justify staying along with John McCain, right? There is sometimes people on the left want to be like, the party was always corrupted, it was always racist, it was always horrible, and it's like, well, there were elements that is true, right? But also leadership does matter, and having somebody at the top of the ticket who would say, no, ma'am, that is not true. Having someone at the top of the ticket during McCain's concession speech, he was graceful. He was getting booed when he said we all need to unite behind
Yep.
our new president and give us our support. He gets booed
Hmm.
by the crowd. So you can see this tension, right, between somebody who's trying to be a leader and a statesman who has some conservative values and a reactionary political base that's looking for someone to feed their grievance. The base got what they wanted, about 8 years later.
So what were the issues that to you are the important political issues that make you or made you a Republican? Like, is it taxation? Is it
Yeah.
regulation? What is it?
Yeah, I hate to be a cliche, but I was always one of these people who was kind of socially liberal. Though the word pro-life is getting mangled these days. What does that mean? Like, I believe there should be some restrictions on abortion. I don't know. My abortion position might be closer to Bill Clinton in 1992 than the current pro-life position. But
Mm.
but besides that, I was pretty socially liberal. And yeah, I think the government a lot of times gets in the way of economic growth, of prosperity in our society. I'm obviously a capitalist. I think that America as a force can play a force for good in the world. I think this is frankly more of a Joe Biden point of view these days than it is a Donald Trump point of view. But
Yeah.
I do believe in American, power and influence overseas. I believe that America was a shining city on the hill where we should be welcoming people from throughout the world, and that they can have their opportunity to take the blessings of the country, right? Like that was like a core Republican view as I was growing up, right, in the 80s and 90s, right?
Yep.
Reagan and Bush were very liberal on immigration, and they spoke to American greatness and believing in the American experiment. A lot of times I look at the left and say, oh, they're down talking America. They want to change what is good about the country. And so that is kind of what had me falling on the Republican side, despite the fact that I obviously had disagreements with parts of the nativist wing of the party on immigration. I'm gay. We haven't talked about that. Obviously, on gay marriage and those issues, I disagreed. And I came to disagree with the more extreme, views, even on economic issues that were that the Tea Party, and the, shutting down the government, we can never raise taxes on anyone making over 400,000, right? Some of these extreme economic views I've sort of come around to the center on.
So it seems clear that now there are lots of folks who are sincerely Trump supporters, and then there are some folks on the Republican side who are overtly anti-Trump. And then there's sort of like the suspicion, which I think we've learned is true, that there are people who are kind of publicly Trump supporters, but really privately they are not. Can you talk about, like, early when it became clear Trump was becoming the nominee? What was your experience of those kind of three groups? And maybe the third one is really the most interesting, the ones who publicly are still defending him, but privately rather did not like him.
Yeah, the third group I think is the most interesting group, and that's who the book focuses on, right? I sort of hated all the Never Trumper books that like wanted to make us seem like the heroes. Like,
Yeah.
to me, I didn't feel like we were heroes. Trump was manifestly unfit and corrupt and dangerous and racist, and it's like I did the obvious thing, in my opinion. The genuine Trump supporters, I think there's an interesting book to be written about them, right? I think that this is a real streak within our country right now. I saw that up close. We talked about it, these Iowa events, people who are genuinely nativists, genuinely protectionist, want to change kind of this the way that the post World War II kind of American setup of America's role in the world. The third group, though, is the one who agrees with me on everything, but basically wanted to continue on with their political career. Or maybe they don't agree with me on everything, right? I think that the Liz Cheney, Elise Stefanik is a good example of this, right? Liz Cheney is far more conservative than me on social issues, on
Yep.
foreign policy even. Elise Stefanik and I worked together. She's one of the chapters in the book. She and I were rhino squish moderate Republicans, right? She believes climate change is real. She believes in gay marriage. She, wanted a liberal immigration policy. But, she also believed in lower taxes and a strong America overseas. Well, Elise Stefanik is now the one who is rising within the party and not Liz Cheney, because she is willing to go along with the cult and go along
Right.
with the lies, and Liz Cheney wasn't. So in that third group, what shocked me, it did not shock me that Trump took over the party. Like I said, in '07, I got a hint that something like this could happen. It did not. What shocked me was just to a person, how almost everyone I had worked with ended up going along with it. And I would have these dinners and these breakfasts, these tortured drinks where people would explain, all of their rationales. And so what I tried to explore in the book is all these different rationales, the ones that are ridiculous, the ones that are mockable, the ones that are kind of in the ballpark of defensible, and try to adjudicate how it was that these people, I think, who are the central villains, essentially, of the book and of our time, came to decide to do what they did. Because Trump couldn't have gotten power just with the true believers, right? Like, there aren't enough of them. He had to win over that third group.
Right. Who strikes you as a sort of faking it type Republican right now, of the people that are kind of in the public eye defending Trump?
Well, most of them. Kevin McCarthy and Elise. I guess I just talked about Elise, but Kevin McCarthy. I write in the book about Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham and he supported Jeb. I was Jeb's communications director. We spent a lot of time together. He would call me all the time ranting about Donald Trump, how much he hated him. Like, one night I couldn't get away from him because he was drinking all this Chardonnay, ranting about how Trump is a racist and a bigot. So is he faking it now? Or I don't know if faking it is the right word. I think that he's come around to believing that the thing that he cares about the most is access to power, and that he can deal with Trump's flaws in exchange for what he thinks he's getting, which is
Right.
influence, access to power. So I don't know if he's faking it so much as his calculation has changed. But I think most of the political strategists and class, which is what I talk about, are, at some level, not, would be, if they all, let's just put it this way. Pretty much everybody in the establishment wing of the Republican Party, if they could snap their fingers and have a magic genie appear and say Donald Trump is just going to disappear from the face of the planet and Ron DeSantis is going to take over the party, they all would snap their fingers in a second.
Oh, well, so let me talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question in terms of like, what's the path out of this? Because the interesting thing about you mentioning DeSantis is when I think about John McCain and Mitt Romney, DeSantis seems way more like Trump than like any of them. So I'm kind of interested in the path out of this Trumpist nightmare on the Republican side. Does it have to be someone like DeSantis, who I almost see as like a slightly less incompetent version of Trump, but close to as dangerous? Is that just by necessity what it has to be? Or is there a way to get back to someone like a Mitt Romney who seems so comparatively benign right now?
Yeah. There's no path back to the benign. I mean, at least in the short term. Here's the thing: Donald Trump gave the people. This is a bottom-up problem, not a top-down problem. And the book is about people's moral sacrifices, right, and how they went along with somebody that was clownishly corrupt, right?
Yeah.
Just for their own power. So that part, they're complicit. But what is the core issue here is that what voters want is someone that's going to channel their grievance and their rage and their hate for the left, for elites, for the media, for, whatever, people who are expressing their gender identity in different ways, right? Like their hatred for whoever that is, they want someone to channel that. That's what they care about, not policies, right? This is the difference between the Dem base and the Republican base. Like there may be some people on the Dem base who have extreme views, but they have actual policies that they want to see enacted. The Republican base just wants somebody to channel their grievance. And so, okay, if that's what these voters want, they're not turning back to anyone like Mitt Romney after Donald Trump gave them what they could have. Like for a while, they're like, oh, I'll hold my nose for John McCain because this is the best we can do. We need somebody like this to win. Now they have come to realize, no, we can win with someone that shares our cruelty and our hatred. And so why would we go back to Mitt Romney, right? Like they never would. And so, no, I think that there's a possible chance for somebody who is like a Boris Johnson type. I wouldn't call that benign. I think that is our best hope, right? That somebody who can fake the grievance stuff, and throw people a little bit of red meat, with some cultural resentments, which Boris was good at. But like on the policy side of things was basically, kind of like a center right nationalist, not exactly the kind of person I would want, not like a classically liberal conservative. But I think it's possible that someone like that could appear. But no, the DeSantis mold is the way the party is going for sure. Or maybe even worse, honestly, maybe even Tucker or something to that effect.
Well, in looking at some of these recent Trump rallies and CPAC, what gets the most applause is the overtly homophobic and transphobic stuff. Like in watching CPAC, the crowd was kind of dead until Ted Cruz ridiculed pronouns, and I don't remember who it was, talked about trans women in sports. Like the applause lines were the homophobic, transphobic applause lines. Yeah. Trump now tells the story about the weightlifting and the swimmer. It's these every single rally, it's the same stories. Is that surprising to see that kind of resurface?
I wouldn't say so. It's disappointing because, look, we all play these games. Like in my head, I felt like the gay rights march was going forward, and those of us on the pro-gay rights side were winning. And so, that it wasn't. By the time I really came into politics, like the writing was on the wall, right? Like the march to progress was marching forward, and thank you to all the people that did that fight before we got there. But we should have known that there'd be backsliding, right? These people, their hatreds, their cruelty, they didn't go away. A lot of times the Republicans get caricatured as like being so stupid that they don't know what they're doing. They're strategic. They're tactical. If you listen to focus groups of Republican voters, they didn't change their mind on gay marriage. They're just like, well, this is a loser for us, right? Like it's not worth fighting it right now, right? It's a political loser. We're going to go win on other issues. That's why they moved on to the trans stuff, right? Now with what DeSantis is doing in the schools with Don't Say Gay, the pronouns, the trans sports, they're emboldened again. They're like, wait a minute, no, this can be a winner. We can bring our we can otherize them and attack them, and that can be a political winner for us again. So we're going to do that. And so while I think the good-natured side of me was hoping that this stuff was passed. I don't think it should be surprising because like, it's not like these people died. They're all still here. All the people that still did, that were for anti-gay marriage initiatives in 2004, most of them are still around, right? So, it's not as if all of their views changed. They just made a political calculation.
So the Snapchat show, Not My Party. I don't even understand Snapchat. Like, I'm on TikTok.
You
TikTok I
should.
get, and we're doing well on TikTok. My sister is on Snapchat. She says it's really like the hub for people who are a little bit younger than me.
Yeah.
How did this develop?
Well, basically, so Snapchat had these shows, and it's mostly for 13 to 24-year-olds, right, who are on it essentially. And they had like Ben Shapiro, and they had like super left stuff. Maybe like you're not on there, but some of your competitors out there in the left space, right?
The actual socialists, not like me.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, the actual socialists. So the Snapchat folks came to me and they're like, we need like somebody in the middle, like besides Charlie Kirk and AOC, right? Like we need to serve this audience because there are a lot of teens out there still kind of working their way through their political identity. And so I try to offer a show once a week, post on Thursdays on Snapchat. It's just 4 minutes. It's fun. It's fast. And it's like, hey, here's a look at the news. And here's a look at what's happening in politics. We talked about the student loan thing, and I hate to say balanced because I'm not trying to do this fake centrist, on the one hand, on the other hand thing. But it's like we're heterodox, right? Like I don't every once in a while I still agree with a Republican on something, right? But I'm not MAGA. I'm not going to tell you exactly what you want to hear every week. And so I hear a lot from kids in college who appreciate the show because they're like, man, on campus everyone is either in the K hive or a social justice warrior or a MAGA. And I don't fit that. And I think that a lot of people feel that way. And so they're trying to navigate through their views. And so I think that the fact that I've been cast out from the Republican Party gives me a chance to have the freedom to just kind of tell people and give people an honest look at what's happening.
Well, I got to get on that Snapchat. I've got to figure out what's going on there.
Do it, man. Your show would do well.
I should really sample some clips on there. It's an interesting idea, actually. Tim's show is Not My Party on Snapchat. The book is Why We Did It, a travelogue from the Republican road to hell. We've been speaking with Tim Miller. Tim, thank you so much.
David, thanks, brother.